To kickoff, baby, we are here. It's Sunny Right Side. It's Tom Vecchio here, and over the next half hour, we're taking you right up to kickoff here. 7:15 p.m. Buffalo and Atlanta. 8:15 p.m. Chicago and Washington. Good games tonight, Tom. Doubleheader. How we feel?
I'm feeling good. We have, two games. It's nice to see these doubleheaders, every other week, whatever that might be. We had some playoff baseball action that's still going on. We got some more later, but interesting games. We were just talking about the weather for the second game, and I got to say, this is probably the first real game this season that has like a legitimate impact on weather. We've been pretty clean thus far, but windy, a little bit of rain in the forecast in Washington. Keep that in mind.
Yeah, you know what's interesting about that too, Tom, because I actually like that game from a couple perspectives, but I always get hesitant when I see it. And I'll tell you some spots like yesterday, Dallas and Carolina. Didn't really know how the weather was going to be. It was fine. They lit it up. Both quarterbacks looked pretty good, points all across the board. But I tended to stay away from some of those games. I tend to stay away from this 8:15 game, which we're going to get to in just a few moments. But that weather is really bothering me because I don't know how clean it's going to be. So when I see that, Tom, and we're going to get to it, like the 49.5, I automatically like the under. I like the 5.5 points by the Chicago Bears. That's just the way I lean when I see that weather tonight in that game. How about you?
I would say the same thing. It's from a defensive standpoint, especially on the Bears side of things, with how bad they've been, how bad the secondary has been. We also should know Debo is officially active for that game. We know that Terry McLaurin is out. That's super important. But from a defensive standpoint, you should say we should be looking at some points. Even though the Bears haven't been great, they've still been scoring a decent amount this year. And, when we have two viable offenses, I'm not going to say great offenses, viable offenses, it should be putting things in a spot for scoring. But the weather impacts all of that. That impacts play calling tendencies, player usage, just the effectiveness of the players. They're not going to be running as fast. If the grass is a little bit slick or slow or all these things, they may not be able to stretch things into a first down that slows down drives. All of that is impacted by the weather. So I would lean on a few more unders here or there.
I think it makes some sense, too. And again, we're going to get to that game, but I just wanted to preview because we like to give you that information because it's not too far off 8:15. Weather is a concern in Washington tonight. We'll see how big of a weather concern it is once we get to game time. But, Tom, we don't have a weather concern in Atlanta tonight. It's Buffalo and Atlanta. 4.5s, they're all gone. 3.5s across the board in the total. High, just like that second game we talked about at 49.5. Now, Atlanta is rested coming off a bye. The Buffalo Bills, devastating loss to the New England Patriots, looking to bounce back, but no Samuel tonight. And also, no Dalton Kincaid, which is pretty key for me. I have a couple angles that I really like on Buffalo. That didn't help my angles.
Yeah, Kincaid's been a really solid option for Buffalo. And as I've talked about before with them, their target share distribution is really flat. And what that means is we have a number of players, and Kincaid was one of them, that are above 12% target share, but they're under 20%. So sometimes we don't know if it's going to be Khalil Shakir. We don't know if it's going to be Keon Coleman. We saw Josh Palmer involved earlier. Obviously, Dalton Kincaid. Now Dawson Knox is in a spot to step into a larger offensive role. Cook coming in the backfield. It's kind of all over the place. So I don't love it now that he's out. I prefer to see him in. But where were you looking, and how does that change things?
Yeah, because I like it. Josh. It almost doesn't matter like who Josh Allen has. The football is going to move. But you know me, I love to play over touchdown passes on angles that I like. And Josh Allen's always that guy. Say that the correlations we talk about, Tom, right? 27.5 is a team total. Maybe getting at least 3 touchdowns, 2 field goals, but you're really correlating 4 touchdowns there.
Yeah.
I doubt it's going to be 3 on the ground and 1 in the air because Josh usually makes things happen. But it does open that ground game up a little bit more for me because of how good that double tight end set is in the red zone here. And maybe you're leaning more on Keon Coleman now. Khalil Shakir, not really a red zone target out of, let's just say, a crossing route, and he runs it in from the 5 or 10 yard line at that point. So it does hurt me a little bit, but it's still Josh Allen. He can do whatever he wants out there, and that football is going to move. That's why we have a 50 total, and their favorite, and their team total is 27.5. But if we look at the quarterback position in this game, Tom, Michael Penix Jr., 225.5, Josh Allen, 229.5. How do you feel about these two quarterbacks in these manageable distances, let's just say? But for me, I do have a lean towards Atlanta being a live dog in this game, but I got to tell you, it's not really from Michael Penix's side. Like, I think Drake London's going to have a good game, don't get me wrong. But Bijan Robinson, I think has a chance to have a really good game, Tom.
Yeah, the Buffalo defense has not been good. So, as I say in a lot of these games, I don't like some people say it's like a bit of a cop out
Yep.
answer. I think the
Yep.
Bills win. I'm not sure if they cover. Especially the fact that you're getting a 4.5 with Atlanta, and that line has moved to 4.5. It was 3.5 yesterday. It's
Yeah.
back to 4.5 in some spots. So I think they win. They don't cover, 28-24, kind of right there, 24-20. I think those are reasonable outcomes for some offense. Atlanta has had a lot of kicking issues this year. So they could still get 3 touchdowns, miss an extra point, and they're sitting on 20 points. So 24-20 puts us right at that 4-point window, give or take some things. So that gives us offense. Like that puts us the total at 49, 48 points. If we're going to be right around there, which I think is very solid. So I would look to Josh Allen passing, and it's really tough to take his receivers because at times we just don't know where the ball is going to. But Josh Allen will throw it. And then when it comes to Bijan, the Bills' run defense has been terrible this year. It's absolutely awful. This is a game that Bijan should do his thing of rushing plus receiving combined and just move the ball down the field effectively and really just keep the ball in Josh Allen's hands.
Yeah, and that's what I'm interested to look at too, because Josh is Josh. Like he's going to make things happen. I just don't want that Josh where he rolls out of the pocket at the 5 and he has that chance to run or just dump that little pass off. I'm hoping he dumps that pass off tonight because last Wednesday, Tom, I took Josh Allen over 1.5 touchdown passes minus 105. So I do have a little bit of CLV, but I would have loved Kincaid to have been in there and more options at wide receiver. But I still think things are going to happen. But if we take a look at the wide receiver position, I do like Drake London, but sometimes it's like the value's in the eye of the beholder. 74.5 is a pretty high number, but I do think he eats tonight. Now, the interesting part that we just talked about is if there's no Kincaid and no Samuel, even though Samuel's not a monster part of that offense, somebody has to make up for it here. Keon Coleman, 42.5. Khalil Shakir, 51.5. James Cook out of the backfield. Josh Palmer, as you talked about, or even Knox picking up more. Like, where do you go with, Kincaid down and Samuel down?
A part of me wants to take Knox just because the number is so low.
Right. Me too.
But, Khalil Shakir, normally plays out of the slot. That's where they like him. 51.5 is a bit high. Keon Coleman's 42.5. And what's his receptions? Is it 3.5? The same thing I always say about Keon Coleman. He could finish with 3 catches, which has him falling under his receptions, but still go over the yards. And the deep play threat from Keon Coleman, that's why they drafted him out of FSU, to be that big body downfield target. Khalil Shakir with the underneath. I like Keon Coleman. I like his talent, and 42.5 I think is just an attainable number for him.
Yeah, it is. If we look to, let's slide it back here because I do want to look at the rushing props. Again, you're not getting a lot of discounts on Bijan Robinson, but 72.5 I do think is doable. If we get a game that doesn't get out of whack, meaning like, let's just say Buffalo gets up 2 touchdowns, I do think has a chance to hit some home runs, but also at the same time, like I do like James Cook at 70.5. I think he's going to get 15 carries tonight, and I do like the Atlanta defense, but he's just one of those slippery players. How do we, and even like the backups, because I do think the strength of Atlanta tonight is a really good balanced offense, which means Bijan's running well and also sneaky Tyler Algier at 33.5. All you're asking for, Tom, that 33.5. Give me 6 to 7 carries. Yeah. I think he gets that. These are intriguing options at running back tonight, just on the ground effect.
They really are, especially when it comes to Tyler Algier. So when you look at the Falcons overall, not only is Darnell Mooney out, also Ray McLeod is out.
Yes.
So that puts down their second and third string receivers. So it's going to be Drake London and then Casey Washington as wide receiver 2, obviously with Kyle Pitts. So we're going to be looking at potential 2 wide receiver, either 2 tight end and 2 running back sets, which means Algier can be out there at the same time as Bijan Robinson, presenting him with opportunities. So I don't mind that. I really don't look into him. Now, Casey Washington, I've seen some people talk about him just because he's going to be out there for snaps. 32.5 is attainable for him. But I would take Tyler Algier. He's been there for years, obviously, with different coaching staffs, dating back to when Arthur Smith was there. But they like him. They utilize him. And all it takes is one half-broken play, half-broken tackle, at least from a defensive standpoint. And the Bills should let up the yards just because they have all season. We're talking about 1 run over 10 yards, and we're nearly halfway there.
Yeah, and I'm taking a look at, I love Bet365 because they give you the team and the team options and the game options, which are so much fun. If I look at the touchdown passes tonight, which again, I like the Josh Allen effect much more here on that than I do for Michael Penix, but 3 touchdowns tonight, it's a minus 180, so over 2.5. I think that's okay, but I like the Josh Allen angle more than Penix. But the rushing touchdowns is very intriguing to me. The game itself, Tom, 2.5 at minus 120. Now, the thing that we love about this bet, and the reason why I do like this, is because anybody can score these touchdowns. Like how many times, like yesterday, let's just say I lost on the Baltimore Ravens. I needed them to score 1 rushing touchdown, which is amazing they did it. But usually it's like Donnie, what are you kidding me? Why aren't you just going to take Derrick Henry? Well, you saw what happened at the goal line where they're trying to sneak 2 in with Mark Andrews. You would be losing your mind if you bet Derrick Henry saying, well, he's the one that's going to score a rushing touchdown. And it's the same thing with the passes. I've been burned so many times, Tom, in the path where, like, hey, my one guy got a touchdown. Oh, he's injured at the half, the quarterback, concussion, he's not coming back out. It doesn't matter. Like, you get a wide receiver. Like, last night, David Montgomery throws a touchdown pass that got called back. That would count for you in this spot.
Yeah.
I think we get 3 rushing touchdowns in this game. Am I wrong? I think we do.
3 combined?
Yes, 3 combined in the game between both teams.
So this is a great this may be like a too long-winded thing, but like this is a great just topic to have overall. It's like you are obviously getting significantly different odds.
Yeah.
So you have to take that into consideration. You're never going to be getting the plus 120s or plus 125 for a running back, but you are opening up your window to allow your bet to cash in multiple ways. And it doesn't have to be a player, it doesn't have to be a team. The game script can kind of go either way. You can have one team up by 20. It doesn't matter because they are scoring touchdowns. You just need to get to the window, and you're willing to sacrifice some odds or take a little bit, more juice, which I'm certainly fine with. If you gave me a bet, maybe not a game bet, what are the odds on this? Because like a minus 150, I'd be all over.
Yeah, and if you look at split it in the teams, Tom, right? Buffalo, if they get 2 rushing touchdowns themselves, it's a plus 115 price. But if you look at Atlanta, 1.5 is a plus 160. Now you look at the touchdown rushing for Buffalo in the season: 3, 3, 1, 2, and 0, and then Atlanta 1, 1, 0, and 2. Like, I'm almost looking at this saying you get plus money on both sides. I do like the Atlanta side better because I do think once you get into the red zone, yes, Josh Allen is a threat. He can run it in. Yes, James Cook is a threat. When I look at the Falcons, let's just say inside the 10-yard line, multiple options on the ground, that are going to get the football between Algier and Robinson.
I like it. I think it's a great bet. And it presents you an opportunity to cash via multiple routes, which is never a bad thing. You're always in the game.
Yeah. But let's take a look, Tom, here at some touchdown props in this game. It's no surprise. Bijan Robinson, minus 180. He's been elevated all day long. James Cook, minus 140. No, because I was actually going to play, my theory is like, okay, I like the tight ends for Buffalo. Take them both at 2-1, get one. It's a nice catch out night, but you don't have that option now. If we take out Bijan and James Cook at minus money, everybody else is plus. Do you have an idea of where you're going on that?
I would look to Drake London solely based on target share, which should be even further. He's just by far the best receiving option that the Falcons have. And that should be further condensed with Darnell Mooney and Ray McLeod both out. So I would go to Drake London solely just based on target share, red zone target share. Tyler Algier is certainly not a bad option, but then I would almost skip Kyle Pitts and I would just take a smaller unit and put it on a quarter unit and put it on Casey Washington. Just because he's close to 5-1. If he's literally going to be playing as wide receiver 2 tonight, I'd rather just take a small piece and move on.
Yeah, interesting numbers outside of those two. But again, it's like, Bijan Robinson, to me, I would be shocked if he's not in the end zone tonight. I really would. Yeah. James Cook, is going to get his opportunities. They're A1, both sides there. And that's why I like that correlation there. Okay, if we're going to get 50 points in this game, maybe Josh Allen runs one in, which I don't want to say. Hey, he runs one in, he better throw one in. But he could run one in. James Cook can run one in. Robinson can run one in. Algier can run one in. There's a lot of opportunity to take over 3 rushing touchdowns in this game, or 1.5 for either side of these two teams. But an interesting game nonetheless. I am leaning towards Atlanta this game. The 4.5 was my play on the early line today to watch how this one plays out. Total listed at 49.5. We'll hit this game in just a few moments. Let's get to the second game, Tom. Chicago and Washington. Both of these games listed at 49.5. One's in a dome, one is not. Rainy conditions. Now, when we say rainy, it's not hurricane. Like, there's a nor'easter moving up. Looks like the wind is blowing between 10 to 15 miles an hour. Not devastating, but could make a difference in the kicking game at times. But here's the difference, Tom. Sometimes I look at this game and say, I have 2 athletic quarterbacks, and the field is a little bit slick. Like, I feel like I want to play running back props from the quarterback position in this game, Tom. Am I wrong?
With what they have in terms of design plays for Daniels specifically, and then sometimes the scrambling from Caleb Williams, as we have seen thus far this season in terms of the offensive line collapsing, sometimes he simply just needs to move. And that is certainly something that can benefit you, whether they've designed runs or just scrambles overall. So I don't mind that at all. And again, Terry McLaurin is out for Washington. So their passing game is just factually weaker than it was, to start the season. So that's weaker overall. Debo is playing, but he was listed as questionable, dealing with a heel injury coming into it. It's going to be him, Zach Ertz, obviously Bill Krosky-Mayer coming out of the backfield, and then Luke McCaffrey is playing as wide receiver 2. So their passing game is pretty thin right now.
Yeah, no, that's a good point you bring up. Now, if we set the table for this one, opening line was 4.5. It hadn't had much movement. It moved to 5.5, and it's been really staying there all week long. The total in itself, 50.5 to 49.5, which isn't a big drop. Usually, Tom, when we get that, hey, that national feed that shows it's raining and it's windy there, it drops down. But most people have hit that ahead of time, understanding that we were expecting the nor'easter to move up the East Coast. And it's like, oh, I turned on my TV. I can't believe that we're having bad weather. Are you surprised, Tom, that we're really not dropping yet here at this point?
Yeah, when I spoke to you this morning, we were talking about 49.5. I expected to come down a point, 48.5, maybe 47.5. I got some late movement if things really did pick up with the wind and weather. But to see it stay at 49, that does surprise me. I expected some movement downward.
All right, let's get to some of the prop bets here and have some angles in this one because, again, sometimes you see this like, oh, it's a little bit rainy conditions. Maybe that helps the offense. Guys slip down. We see it multiple times. All you need to do is make one move at wide receiver. The DB falls down. That's a 65-yard touchdown that you wouldn't be getting in really good weather. But if we look at the quarterback props and anticipating some mild weather tonight, to say the least, have an impact, Jaden Daniels is 218.5. Caleb Williams is 228.5. Anything catch your eye in the passing game tonight, Tom, between both of those quarterbacks?
Yeah, I like Caleb Williams over 31.5 pass attempts. And it really comes down to the fact that the running game for Chicago has been okay. Swift is good. He's not great. I know he's putting up some combined yards overall, but when we're looking at the defensive ranks for Washington right now in terms of rush DVOA, they're the fifth best in the league. So, this is just a tough matchup. So, again, if they have to move the ball with Ben Johnson as the offense now coach for Chicago, short, quick passes at a higher rate for Caleb Williams to pick up first downs, just because the defensive matchup running the ball is so tough because Washington is strong up front. And they're also very weak against the pass. They're 26 DVOA versus the pass. They should be looking to attack that, not the run game.
Yeah, I'm looking at Pro Football Focus right now with their advanced stats, Tom. Washington, number 2 in their ranking on run defense. If you go to coverage, Tom, it's dead last in the NFL. Look at that.
So, again, just because Swift has been pretty good, and listen, he generally exceeds my expectations. I'll be honest, I think he's just kind of like a mid-average running back. But they utilize him, and he often gets yards. I just don't know if that's going to happen so much. So I'd rather just turn to the passing game, which does look to be fully healthy.
Yeah. Let's take a look here at the rushing yards in this game because Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt coming in here top of the leaderboard, 67.5, which I do think he gets some yards tonight. I think he'll be able to eat. DeAndre Swift, as we pointed out there, 48.5. But then we look at the quarterback position. Jaden Daniels, 46.5, and Caleb Williams, 27.5. Let me ask you this question, too, before we get to the quarterbacks. Deebo Samuel comes in the game a little bit banged up. Now, if you're healthy enough to play, that means the playbook should be available to you. Slightly rainy conditions there. Is he going to get 2 carries? Because his number, Tom, 7.5 tonight.
I don't like him from a carry perspective. If he's out there, you might as well just utilize him in the safest way possible. Don't put any extra stress on him if you don't need to. And they have 3 running backs that Washington can use. So I like Deebo from receiving angle tonight, not rushing.
Gotcha. So there you go. A little Deebo action to see what he does. But how about the quarterbacks, Tom? 46.5 for Jaden Daniels, 27.5 for Caleb Williams. Now also, I didn't want anything to do really with the Commanders last week when they took on the Chargers. Nice win on the road, don't get me wrong, but sometimes I get a little nervous. Like quarterback coming back who's an athletic guy, may wear a knee brace, we don't know. He looked like he was pretty good. Are we anticipating him being the Jaden Daniels of I will take off 7 to 8 times tonight? Or are we still a little apprehensive about looking at Jaden Daniels props on the ground?
There's nothing that indicate no report that I saw would indicate that he's not healthy and not good to go in any way. So I would lean on just operating rationally. Their offense should move. I think his passing will get a little bit better compared to what we saw in his first game back against the Chargers last week. I think his passing will improve, just getting the timing back. But I have no issues with trusting him when it comes to props night if there were to be rushing or passing.
How about the wide receivers, Tom? Roma Dunze, who I love, and that's Caleb Williams' guy at this point. He's 64.5 tonight. We just told you, looking at that defense, where if you're going up against Washington, they're very good against the run. They're not very good on the coverage on the back end here. He's 64.5. Other guys here for Chicago, Tom, DJ Moore, 39.5. Zacchaeus, 26.5. You take a look at Luther Burden, the third, 18.5. We'll start with the Chicago wideouts, Tom. What catches your attention there?
What catches my attention is that DJ Moore is not being utilized in the same way that he was a couple of years ago.
Correct.
And, he's getting up there in age, et cetera, et cetera. So I actually have a play on Zacchaeus over 25.5 yards. Talked about that yesterday with Brady last night on IGL. We had a guest on, and he has a 16.7% target share, and DJ Moore's at 15.9. So he's factually being used more in the offense. It's not some massive difference, but he is being used. And I would just take a 26.5 number. That's just that much lower. I will say a lot of people like to buy into rookies such as Luther Burden as the post-bye week rookie bump, where rookies after the bye week, listen, especially high drafted rookies like Luther Burden and Colston Loveland, if they spend high capital on them, they want to utilize them. And sometimes it takes the first few weeks for them to get acclimated to the NFL, and then coaches realize that they need to get them involved in the offense more and more. So people are going to be buying into Luther Burden. I think this is the start of it.
How about now, Tom? We know Ben Johnson came from Detroit. He loved using tight ends. Colston Loveland, 16.5. Cole Kmet, 16.5. Maybe rainy conditions. I'm not going to ask you for like either one, but if you had to choose them, identical numbers. Are we talking about a post-bye rookie bump for Colston Loveland? You got to. I mean, dude, Warren's killing it out here. This guy's got to show up.
I would take the talent that I believe that Loveland is, just a pure athletic standpoint, over Cole Kmet. Also, Cole Kmet just doesn't play in the same volume of snaps. Obviously, we're not talking about massive differential in target share, snaps, routes run, all those things. But just give me Colston Loveland again. If there's a time to buy into it, it would be now. And if he is utilized, then next week that number is going to be 19 or 21, and then we've kind of missed the boat on buying low on him.
And you're right. Like when we get to that bye week, it's like as a coaching staff, you reevaluate. And it's like, dude, we drafted this guy as the first tight end in the draft, high in the first round. He has to have some packages. Like, it's not like who's going to come around. Like, no, use him, man. That's why you look at Tyler Warren every week. That guy's in that game plan. Get this guy in the game plan. Like 16.5. This might be one of those points, Tom, you're never going to get him 16.5 again. Like he's 48 yards and away he goes.
It's what I'm saying is like it. And if we're wrong about this, and he has been dealing with some injuries, just to be clear, he has been a little bit banged up throughout the season, dealing with some stuff. If we're wrong about this, then then you just don't consider him next week. We don't consider him until he actually establishes a level of consistency. But if we are buying into like you said, high first round draft cap, it's not like he's a 5th round pick, high first round draft capital on him. If he does break out and he goes for, listen, 40 yards is not like eye-popping numbers, but he's more than doubling his prop. Next week, his yardage total will be 22, 25. Keep moving up, up, and up. And at that point, I'm not saying it's unbettable, but to get to that same level, you need more and more consistent involvement rather than one breakout game.
By the way, let me check something here on this update. Let me just go. I just want to take a look at this Bills game real quick because it says Daquan Jones is not going to play, injured himself in pregame warmups here. I just want to see how this factors into that starting lineup now on defense. Let me just flip this over. We'll go to lineups. Let me see. Yeah, Jones is ranked in the top 20 this year, Tom, for defensive tackles. And Ed Oliver is back, which is a really big deal.
Right.
That defensive line is still good, but that could be a key there with maybe a little bit more rushing on the side there of the Atlanta Falcons, something to keep an eye on. But touchdown scores tonight, Tom, in this game. Billy Krosky Merritt, minus 135. Everybody else, Tom, is plus. Like, this is a 50-point game is what they're hang up there, 49.5. Odunze, plus 130. Debo, plus 130. Jaden Daniels, plus 140. DeAndre Swift, plus 150. Who are you looking at tonight? Because you got some good like, I always look at Zach Ertz, plus 240. Like, sometimes you just have to take a feeler on the guy in the red zone because he's always going to get targets. Who are you looking at?
Yeah, I certainly don't mind Ertz, especially from the red zone share, especially with Terry out. I would absolutely go to Ertz. I don't mind a play on Odunze. I know the matchup is a little bit tough for him, but a plus 130 number is still pretty good. And then if you are looking for a much deeper shot, it's going to same thing with Atlanta. They're missing wide receivers. I would go to Luke McCaffrey before I go to Chris Rodriguez, or I would go to Jaden Daniels. I would not play his rushing, or I should say his TD prop. I would play his rushing yards before that.
By the way, something you don't see all that much too in this Bills Atlanta game, like the roof is open in Atlanta, like that little tuna can they got, which they said was broken for like years. I guess they fixed it, so that's going to be open. Not really going to make a difference, obviously, because it's not ultra hot down there. It's not raining. It's not any conditions. It'll just be open. A little bit less crowd noise maybe at that point tonight. But I'm looking forward to both of these games. Let's do a recap here, Tom, on both of these, and we'll start with Buffalo and Atlanta. That line 3.5 across the board. Total 49.5 across the board. I do like the Atlanta Falcons. Got them at 4.5. And again, if I like them at 4.5, oh, I can't take them at 3. Yes, I still do like it because I think they'll be competitive in a one-score game in the fourth quarter, unless it's a monster night by Josh Allen. I like Bijan. I think he's going to have success in this game. I do like Drake London as a wide receiver, but if I'm just looking at the bet that I like the most from early in the week, which took a little bit of a hit. Look, Josh Allen's going to move the football. They're expected to get 28 points tonight. I think he throws 2 touchdowns, and we get a couple guys in there with Pater. We'll love Kincaid in there to score a touchdown, but I don't have that. But I do think Atlanta wins this game.
Yeah, I would say if you got the 4.5 for Atlanta, absolutely take the points. I do think they keep it close. They're coming off a bye. Also, the Bills coming off a pretty tough loss at home. They also want to bounce back. So a couple things to consider there. We didn't touch on Kyle Pitts. I like him under 40.5 receiving yards. That line has moved to 43, so I guess I love him under 43 as well. Again, I think a rational game plan for Atlanta is not just to run the ball because the Bills' run defense is so bad, but also just keeping the ball away from Josh Allen as much as possible is always a viable route and something that can bring you a level of consistency. So Bijan having a big night, seeing Drake London have a big night, I think Kyle Pitts will be involved, but to see him routinely push past 40 is not something that we have seen this year or really just utilized in the offense since he's been there. That's where I go under for Kyle Pitts.
Over 2.5 rushing touchdowns in this game is minus 115. I think it makes a lot of sense there. Game number 2 tonight, Tom. Chicago and Washington. 4.5 turned into 5.5. Some weather conditions to worry about here. 49.5 that's listed across the board tonight. I do like, again, the underdog in this game on the road. I think it'll be a one-possession game into the fourth quarter here. Some weapons down there for both sides, obviously, but also I just think the bye week's going to help Chicago. They do have a quarterback mobile that can get around just in case the weather is bad and make those right plays. I like Roma Dunze tonight. So I'm going to take the 5.5 with the Chicago Bears tonight. And the under, I do lean toward just because of the field itself, and we're going to get some rain. But I like Chicago better than I do like the under in this game, Tom.
Absolutely agree with that. Chicago and the under if I had to pick. But, I would lean with the Bears getting the points. And, I talked about the run defense for Washington. So, to recap, I would say one of my favorite bets would be Caleb Williams over 31.5 attempts. I think they have to move the ball through the air. And again, it's raining. It's not pouring. It's going to be consistent, showers. There's going to be some wind. It's not going to impact the ball that much. But again, short, quick passes to move the chains, pick up first downs. Swift will be involved, but it is a very difficult matchup going up against Washington. So give me Caleb Williams moving the ball through the air.
We look at the main props in this game on Bet365. If we combine both teams, Tom, 457.5 is the passing number to throw 2 touchdowns. It's juicy at minus 165, which means 3 total touchdowns in this game from anybody. Cashes that in. The rushing props, 281.5 for the game, which I sometimes, Tom, like you have to line it up with your eyes. The passing yards are easy. The rushing numbers, when you select 281.5, it's like, wait a second, $140 on each side. That could be tough to do. I never have an eye playing for that. I don't really handicap that, but the rushing touchdowns in this game, too, is 2.5 at a minus 115 price. I got to tell you, like, even though it's rainy, Tom, I'd rather go touchdown passes than rushing touchdowns in this game.
I think so. And especially based on the price that you're getting in. Obviously, it's, somewhat price dependent. 115 is fine. And again, we're not, and you're spread out across both teams. It's not like you're looking for just the one team to get you to the goal line, so to speak, metaphorically. But it is that.
Yeah. How about that? Well, there we go, Tom. We got 2 games on the board tonight, ready to kick off in 2 minutes right now. Doubleheader. By the way, I think we have a doubleheader next Monday night as well, don't we?
I haven't looked that far ahead yet.
Yeah, we do. Actually, you know what? It's a shame. We had the injury game, which should have been phenomenal. It's Tampa and Detroit. Everybody's out for both teams in that game, it feels like.
Okay. Yeah, so the only game I looked at was what's on Thursday. I didn't look ahead to Monday yet.
10 o'clock next Monday night, so it's a true, double header. That's Houston and Seattle. And then Thursday night, it's going to be Pittsburgh and Cincinnati. Yeah. So that is the primetime schedule we have laid out. And then Sunday night football is Atlanta and San Francisco.
Yeah.
Let us know, Tommy boy, any final thoughts before these 2 games kick off? What do you got?
No, Blue Jays money line not coming through for me.
Oh, shit. Come on. You should have left your Savage in that game, man. You Savage should have stayed in that game and did it. Tough scene right now. But Tom, Vecchio, Donnie Rightside, 30 minutes will kick off. Let's cash in some of these wagers. We're going to see you soon.